Hi, I'm Bart Herbison, Executive Director of the Nashville Songwriters Association. And this week for the Tennessean and Tennessean.com, the story behind the song, Marc Beeson and Sonny Lemaire's When She Cries. You know I love this song.
Yeah.
You know I love this song. Tell me about the writing of the song, the idea. Do you remember the day in the room?
I do. And, every song kind of has a different beginning. And it was the first time that Sonny and I had written. And he's in the band Exile, and it's actually still touring. And he and his band had given me my first cut and my first single. And so I met him in the studio, and we decided we would write. And he came down here to Nashville. And we went and had some lunch and talked. And I had a piece of melody that I'd been hanging on to for a long time. And I don't know why I hadn't shared it with anybody, but Sonny, I mean, he's just the coolest guy. And I don't know, we got done with lunch and went over and I started playing this melody. And we don't remember who spit out this title, but I kind of played this chorus thing, and one of us said something like "When She Cries," and we just kind of knew how to write that right away.
But don't you think the great songs, that's kind of how it happens?
Yeah, it's interesting though. It wasn't a plan, and nobody came in with that idea. And but when that was spit out, we knew exactly what that song was about. And you can have your own dream. It's one thing to deal with everything that you have to go through, but when you drag somebody else into your life, and especially in the beginning when there's really nothing to believe in, that was really the heart of that song. And you want to be able to be successful for somebody who shows faith in you early on like that. And
well, I think
that's what it was about.
I call it the da-da-da-das.
The da-da-da.
Well, if you take a song, the melody to me, that lift in the chorus that I think is the part you came in with and you're talking about, is so contagious. It's da-da-da.
Oh, yeah.
And if you do the da-da-da and it's contagious, you're probably on to something. But it's just... Now, you're writing this with the guy from Exile. Mm-hmm. You had to hope, and they're on fire at the time. You had to hope they'd record it.
Well, then not only that, but it was a few weeks later I went up to Lexington where they all lived, and we demoed it up there, and those guys played the demo.
I know.
So, but they weren't in recording mode at that time. So it just, and I'm not sure if they did another record after that or not, but it kind of, like happens. It laid around for a little while, and I was trying to get a record deal, and I had played that song a couple times and didn't get any bites, and it wasn't happening for me at that point as an artist, and I let songs go over at EMI and said, just let's see if we can get something going with these. And so next thing you know, Josh Leo heard it, and he really produced a great record on those guys.
Well, but you got to be honest for a minute. When you hear that Restless Heart's going to record this song, Larry Stewart's one of the greatest vocalists in any genre of music ever.
Oh, yeah.
And he mesmerizes me to this day.
Great.
But you find out he's not going to sing it.
Yeah.
That had to kind of disappoint at first. Tell me about that, and tell me about actually hearing the record.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't have enough cuts at that point to not be excited.
Okay.
I was excited that anybody wanted to cut one of my songs at that point.
And it was the drummer, his name was?
John Dietrich.
John, that's right.
And I hadn't met any of those guys. I just knew that I loved those records. And as a matter of fact, I had never really thought about coming to Nashville. And a door opened for me here. But in the late 80s, I started listening to the country station out in L.A. And I remember Shenandoah and Restless Heart. I would hear those records and go, man, if they're making that music in Nashville, I could do that. I want to be there. So
it holds a distinction that few songs in the history of this great songtown ever got. Talk about the big awards. Almost simultaneously.
Well, it won the ASCAP Country Song of the Year in one year, and then the next year it won the ASCAP Pop Song of the Year. So it was. I think there was a lot of people that were really sick of that song, which is the songwriter's dream.
Well, it's had a long shelf life. I'm obsessed because I think it's time for it to be re-recorded, and I'm not a song plugger, but I'm constantly reminding people of the greatness of that song.
I just love the way you think, man.
Well, it is. It's a timeless song, as great ones are. You and I went to Washington, D.C. to do some songwriter advocacy, and I had a really cool moment. You're like, I don't know if these people will know that song. It was the ringtone on a congressman's phone when we walked into his office. How cool was that?
Yeah, he was.
I think it was Heath Schuler, the former
Heath
quarterback of Tennessee.
and he was at UT at the time when that song was a hit, and I played the song, and he pulled his phone out because this was my wife and my favorite song. That's great.
And you know what else it was great is Congress is populated by a bunch of 20-something staffers. And in every office, we must have done 20 appointments. They were singing along with that song, at least the chorus to it.
Yeah.
And finally, that's just one of those songs that's so personal. There have had to be dozens and dozens of people that came up to you and told you stories about how that song intersected with their personal relationships, their love stories.
Oh man, it's I had something happen to me up in Chicago. My sister at the time was working for a big corporation in Chicago, and I had gone up to visit her, and I'm dressed in my songwriter attire, and I show up this office, and I've got my jeans and t-shirt, like I dressed up today, and then I walked in, and there's all these people in suits walking around, and I just kind of snuck into her office, and she had to go run something before we went to go to lunch, and so I'm sitting there, and this really dapper, kind of middle-aged guy kind of walks by the door, and he comes back and he leans in. He goes, "Are you Holly's brother?" And I said, "Yeah." And he came in and he said, "Well, I'm so and so," and he said, "I'm the vice president of marketing for." It was a major company, and he said, "Did you write that song When She Cries?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, I was just shocked that he knew, and well, I'm sure my sister was bragging all over the building, but he said, "That song saved my marriage." He said, I was taking my wife for granted, and that song made me think I needed to pay more attention to what was going on. And I was floored. I mean, you don't think about that when you're writing a song. You don't really think about effect a song will have on somebody, and it really hit me then, the power of music in general, and I remembered how many songs that affected me really powerfully when I was younger.
That song is so emotional and moving. And you're one of the best performers in this great songwriter town. So let's hear a little bit in a second of this week's story behind the song for the Tennessean and Tennessean.com, Sonny Lemaire and Marc Beeson's When She Cries.
The road I have traveled on is paved with good intentions. It's littered with broken dreams that never quite came true. And all of my hopes were dying, and her love kept me trying. And she does her best to hide the pain that she's been through. When she cries at night, and she doesn't think that I can hear her. She tries.